All right, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome into a new week and a fresh week of Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo and Kyle Evans here with you once again. Kyle, good weekend collectively, I'd say, for us on the whole. I would imagine it was a pretty good night for you last night, Sunday night, right? You know, not bad.
Yeah, Sunday Night Baseball went well. You know, the Yankees were on that. The Heat, you know, they won their game to even the series, to make it a good series, I think, now. And, yeah, it couldn't have been a better day, in my opinion. Better Sunday night, especially. Right. Usually Sunday nights are a little, light, not much going on.
Yeah. So, yeah, good stuff for our culture out there. But, no, this isn't the Heat Check podcast, so we will get back to baseball because different coasts, different results for the weekend for the Yankees compared to the Mets. And we'll dive into everything. There's a lot of interesting headlines, I'd say, coming out of really both. And we'll touch on some even late-breaking news at this point, I'd say, for the general populace of Met and baseball fans here. So we'll jump into all that, but quickly have to thank a couple of our sponsors, like DeSanto Propane, 4 generations strong, is a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. And you can go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more information, or you can call them toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane and Doc Daddy. Unleash your waterfront potential and let Doc Daddy install custom docks, stabilize your slopes and shoreline, install a seawall, and more, including barge service. A local company serving Finger Lakes homeowners. Call 585-739-5415 today to schedule a consultation. So let's jump on into it. Kyle will begin with the Yankees taking the series against the Dodgers, and end up being, if you were to tell me exiting Friday night, just the way I think everything kind of evolved from that game, that the Yankees would have gotten the series, I might have been, interesting, but okay. I want to start with the positives, I'd say, Friday. Josh Donaldson and Giancarlo Stanton, at least at certain points within the game, didn't look like they missed a beat, had very powerful hitting home run comebacks to the Yankee lineup on Friday. So that's the positive there. It's not so much a negative, I think, for me, but I saw an interesting discussion kind of develop throughout the weekend amongst different people. I don't think it was something that was an immediate reaction, like gut reaction on Friday, but a lot of people are kind of wondering about Severino all of a sudden, and I just, personally speaking, I'm not here for it because he's still kind of fresh coming back to a degree, although I don't know if that leash is fully allowable at this point for him, but look, when the guy's on, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball, plain and simple. I think for me it's a bit of a non-issue, but it's something that even non-Yankee fans, I think, were talking about throughout the weekend, because there's a lot of talk about what the Yankees should kind of do with him at this point, re-sign him and bring him back, let him walk here at the end of the year. Like, what do you do, right? And for me, I think the Yankees do need to bring him back. It's one of those things where it's like you can't let some of these bad starts kind of dictate the overall narrative of what he has done and his body of work has done, despite I'd say probably coming off the IL at this point, not going as maybe fully planned.
Yeah, I agree with you there. When he's on, he's one of the best. But I would bring him back, but I would be careful with what kind of contract they give him. Sure. I mean, we see it all the time when they give out contracts. Injuries are a big part of it, and injuries are already a big thing with him. So I'm not sure what kind of contract I'd give him right off the top of my head right now, but if I bring him back, it's not going to be something, long-term like they gave Aaron Hicks.
Yeah. And, it's weird because, I mean, I think it's maybe something we can kind of dive into here, probably in a couple minutes here when we really kind of dive into some of the stuff kind of surrounding the Yankees at the moment. So we'll circle back to that point here in a second. Moving on to Saturday, this is where I think, really the highlights of the weekend probably came up from the national side of things for the Yankees, right? Um, Jake Bauers' 2 home runs really set the tone for the Yankees, and honestly, a big pivotal game, right? I think the Yankees lose Saturday. We're having a very potentially different discussion about a couple different things, right? So it was awesome to kind of see Bowers, who, been a guy who has shown maybe potential at different stops in his career at this point. And I think we know what he is for the Yankees, right? Kind of that, really be fair, fourth outfielder at this point, right? And the fact that he was really banging the drum on Saturday, I think is pretty indicative of the type of guy he is and type of player he is. Um, and look, I'm a fan of his. I did jokingly do the power ranking of Yankees in our generation tweet on Saturday after the second home run, but you know, his 2 home runs got overshadowed by what we're going to be talking about here next. But I did want to give a justifiable shout out for Jake Bauers for what he did on Saturday.
Yeah, that was huge. And obviously we'll talk about it more, but I think he's going to come into play even more starting time. So maybe more consistent at bats even will even get him going even more. I mean, he's already came up big several times, but if he gets regular playing time, who knows what he could do. It seems like he's totally changed his career around. I saw a stat on the Fox broadcast the other night. His hard hit percentage is like triple of what it was the last 3 seasons. So he's been hitting the ball extremely hard, and I think that is credit to the hitting coaches down in AAA that worked with him. He got off to a great start down there, and then even coming up now, probably learning from some of the the bigger guys like Judge and Stanton. So I'm a fan of him, and hopefully he continues to play well.
Yeah, and obviously now this is where we'll transition to the Judge talk, because it's really going to probably envelop the Yankees here headline-wise for the next day or so. They're off today, as are the Mets. To be honest with everybody, look, today obviously we're live and record our early week edition here on Mondays, right? It's a very light baseball slate period today. I think it's collectively 6 games. It's a very light
3 night games. Or something?
It's a very light slate tonight and today, and I don't know what that was, but okay. So Judge obviously had a good day at the plate anyway Saturday, right? But known for making what I can only really describe as a Superman-style catch into the wall in right field. Now, the wall that he impacted out in right field happens to be the door into the Yankee bullpen. That gave way. He is obviously a very large human. I'm not saying that the fence, the wall, wasn't properly closed or anything like that, because it was. It's just a case of the Dodgers have they might be one of the last teams to kind of have the full gate bullpen style out in the outfield now. But goes in, wall gives way, which in all honesty I think was a bit of a blessing too, and I think we can talk about that obviously here with the fact that now he was able to stay in the game Saturday, was out of the game Sunday. Come to learn that first it was reported to be a foot/ankle issue because of the raised level within where the wall gave way. Turns out it's his toe. So imaging is scheduled, and it's very strange because I think part of this too is maybe tied into Nestor Cortez's issues that, again, we'll talk about that in a second. But Judge is supposed to be getting imaging done today. I heard it could be tomorrow, but it's going to be today, I would imagine. I don't think they're going to waste time on that. And it's a big... the outcome of this is going to be big. Kyle, you mentioned, right, this is a big spot potentially for whether it's Jake Bauers. And, I'll bring up the topic that you brought up off air about this. Is this a spot where we see the Yankees make maybe the first move trade-wise here of the MLB season? And I do agree with what you said, so I'll turn over to you for the point you brought up about this, because if Judge has to go on the IL because of this toe injury, um, the Yankees are in quite the perplexing spot.
Yeah, I saw a tweet last night. I forgot exactly who, but somebody said, when other baseball players have dealt with broken toes, they're usually out 6 to 8 weeks. So if that is in fact the case with Judge, I don't think you can just ride with the Jake Bauers, the Willie Calhouns,
Even though they are Yankee legends.
Franchi Cordero is another option. I guess Estevan Florial's still down there. He's an option, but you need to make a 40-man move. But I just feel like those guys, for over a month, I don't think you can keep them in the lineup and continue to win at the margin they've been winning at.
It can't be. Yeah, you're right. It can't be your everyday guy.
Yeah. So I feel like a move has to be made, and it can't just be a minor move like they've tried to do, with Franchi Cordero and stuff before the season. So that's something to watch out for, I would say. But based on the way Judge talked, I'm pretty concerned with these results that we're going to find out. I would assume tomorrow afternoon when Boone speaks, it'll be 4 o'clock when he talks.
Yeah.
Just because of, I don't know if you saw, but they interviewed him after the game, and they asked him, do you think it's broken? He said it's tough to tell, and then they said, do you think there's an IL stint possibly? And he said, I hope not, but if I do go on the IL, I do go on the IL. Like, he was just like trying to be positive about everything, but like, he wasn't even available for a pinch hit opportunity late in the game. They stuck with Kyle Higashioka, who did drive in the run, but I was like, wow, this would be a spot right now, and in a tie game, runners on second and third, 1 out, bring Judge in.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that, so I was like, oh man, this might be serious, and then we found out the news after the game. So yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm feeling maybe an IL stint regardless, even if it isn't broke. Maybe if it's just a severe bruise, they still IL him.
Yeah, toes are weird. I feel like, now I've never at least have known to broke a toe, but like I've definitely have like sprained one before. I could always have tell, or I mean, we all everybody's done the thing, as we call it, stereotypically, turn a corner in the night and you bash your toe on like the side of the wall or something. Those aren't pleasant in the moment, right?
Yeah, and he did it into concrete.
Yeah, so
Full speed.
and it's the smallest deals, right, where it's a freak injury in that sense, I guess. You know what I mean? But it could have been worse, and I bring that up because I mentioned the wall giving way, and I think that was a big blessing in disguise, because I think we would be probably discussing a different situation if it didn't give way in that sense. I'm dating myself here a little bit with you, Kyle, on this, but do you remember the name by chance, Aaron Rowand?
No.
Okay. So he was a center fielder in the 2000s and played for the White Sox and Phillies, but he's most known for, with the Phillies in center field, making this catch at when Citizens Bank was probably 3 or 4 years old. I want to say it was like 2008 when this catch happened, or 2007. Might have even been '06 now I'm thinking about it. I'm really dating myself on this one, but he went flying into the fence out in center field, and it did not give way. He was out for a beyond extended period of time. We're talking, I remember there being a pretty bad head injury for him, for example. Within that, I think he did something to his shoulder too, now that I'm really thinking back on it. But the fact that I think the wall kind of gave a little bit, kind of, in all honesty, took away some of that energy, dissipated energy effect, I think was pretty big.
Yeah, when I was watching that in real time and I saw him, going full speed backwards and the wall was getting pretty close, I was like, man, he's going to like run into the wall and get a concussion or something. And I thought maybe he'd pull up, and he didn't. I was like, oh man, I never thought it would be, a lower, I guess what they would call in hockey, a lower body injury.
Right.
I thought, it was like going to be something like the Jake Bauers incident when he ran into the wall, even though he ended up not having a concussion either. But yeah, I thought for sure it was going to be, more, I guess more severe, but now we find out that it might be severe.
Right. Yeah. And before we move on to the injuries here for the rest of the Yankees, just a shout-out for the game yesterday. Win via, look, Volpe, obviously the two-run home run for the insurance, but, pretty much winning via small ball yesterday was pretty big. And, shout-out to Domingo Germán for, again, another really quality start, to be completely honest.
Without the sticky stuff. 2.37 ERA in the last 6 starts. Not been very good for this team.
For the guy that, honestly, both me and you kind of thought would probably potentially be the odd man out in this deal at some point.
and he gets even
He's not.
his role gets even bigger because losing Cortez now. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. I mean, so Nestor Cortez, I mentioned right a little bit that with the Aaron Judge thing. So he's going to have an MRI either today or tomorrow. He's experiencing what he called achiness in his pitching shoulder. Um, he
like
said that,
inflammation.
yeah, he said the pain is never when he's actually pitching, but like the day after. Um, so I'd say experience probably tells us he's probably looking at least a 15-day IL slot potentially here. Um, if nothing else, just to kind of settle the shoulder down a little bit. Um, and that's you're right. I mean, it's big that Herman's kind of stepping up here, and um, to tie in a little bit here with previewing the White Sox series, the Yankees do have that TBA slot for Game 2 on Wednesday for who will be pitching because that's normally the Cortez slot at this point. And I saw again. This is obviously one of the more interesting aspects and elements of everything here. Johnny Brito's name is brought up. He last started for Scranton on Thursday. I want to make sure I got my dates right within it. Yeah, Thursday. And Randy Vasquez was the other one, and he threw Friday for Scranton. So those are the two names that I saw pick up steam to kind of at least take this slot through the order, through the pitching rotation for the Yankees.
I'm gonna go with Randy.
Yeah, I kind of lean Randy. He had the better of the two starts, even though both I think went like 6+ or something like that. So, um,
And he's only had one big league start, and he faced a good Padres
right,
lineup and only gave up one run.
right,
He does have some walk issues, but so does Brito.
yeah,
So I'm giving Randy a second start.
yeah. I'm in with there too, and I think against a team like the White Sox, who not to jump too far ahead here, along the line for what we were do here in the order of things.
But I feel like it
That's a
probably will
lineup.
be
That's a
Johnny.
lineup that's pretty hit and miss in terms of quality at bats and actually getting things done on offense.
Yeah.
So, all right, moving along. Greg Allen, Friday comes out and he's dealing with a right hip flexor strain. Happened in the first at bat on Friday. He was placed on the 10-day IL. Hung around in the game until the 8th inning. I remember watching the game a little bit and wondering like, like they visited him twice.
And he kept saying
With
no,
it.
no.
And I give him respect, right? I mean, he's trying to game through it, and it looked like, in all honesty, he kind of was in a way, but clearly just too much overcome in the long term. And this is one of those deals where if you're Greg Allen, I understand where he's coming from, right? Because, like at this point, he is frankly just fighting for his big league life, right? I mean, really since leaving the Yankees in 21, he's been a more or less quad A, what we call quad A player, where it's, he's kind of hanging around the 40-mans, but for example, like Pittsburgh last year, bulk of his year was with AAA Indianapolis. He wasn't even up at the big league Pittsburgh roster last year. So I get it, but for the sake of him, and I think for the sake of this Yankee team even, like I don't think you would have to worry about trying to game it out. I think he's very clearly a guy that they want up at the big league, the 26-man active roster at this point. So it's tough. This is the type of injury that as long as he's resting with it, he should be back at the end of this 10-day stint. It's not a deal where we're looking down the barrel of a gun here to not to say whatever, but like it's not like we're looking at this barrel of a gun with like say Ryan Weber, who same time was placed on the 15-day IL with right forearm strain, and we all know what that more than likely means in the grand scheme of it, which is Tommy John surgery. I know he's taking the positive route for it, but he's getting an opinion done today in New York when I'm assuming they got to be back at this point. So, but certainly in my mind, it's two tough losses for the Yankees on Friday.
Yeah, especially because Greg Allen, for the last 2 weeks has had a pretty good
Yeah.
stint with the Yankees. He homered in Seattle. He's had some pinch run opportunities where he scored some go-ahead runs and stuff against the Reds. What was it, 2 weeks ago now?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's playing well, and you can see why he tried to stay in. I mean, he's playing for the New York Yankees, a team that's playing great baseball. You never want to get hurt like that. So and especially after losing Harrison Bader
Mm-hmm.
and now possibly losing Aaron Judge. I mean, 3 outfielders in
Right.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, I mean that's another spot where you look at a trade where No, I agree, especially if Judge's out for extended period of time. He got to go out and get a quote-unquote bigger splash. Can't be a guy, knock on Greg Allen, but he can't get another Greg Allen in this deal.
You have to pray that Oswaldo gets going.
Right, right. And, you mentioned Oswaldo. He gets recalled. Nick Ramirez gets recalled to take Ryan Weber's spot on the active roster. Let's end on a couple semi-positive notes here. Frankie Montas has formally began a throwing program. He had been doing catching and stuff like that, but he's officially kind of throwing off mounds now and stuff like that. And Carlos Rodon threw another successful bullpen sim in Los Angeles. And the next step officially will be facing live batters, but that is not expected until the end of the week at this point. So, at the very least, some minor positive news regarding two guys who should be, one for sure and one more than likely in the Yankee rotation by the end of the year.
Yeah, they're saying he'll face hitters Wednesday afternoon at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, so that's actually a bump up along the timeline than what I saw even.
Yep, and that'll be 4 days removed from his second bullpen. So
yeah, and both bullpens, they capped him at 30 pitches. I think it was 15, quote unquote, for each inning that he did. So.
And there was a tweet about his
there.
velocity, and people, Yankee fans, of course, freaking out. Like, the guy hasn't had a spring training. His fastball is topping 93. It's 2 bullpen sessions. Let's relax.
You gotta build back up.
Just like Tommy Kahnle in his rehab outings. His
Kahnle
fastball,
looked really good Friday, by the way. I was really impressed.
his changeup is unreal.
Yeah.
He throws it 4 or 5 times in a row. It's so good.
Yeah. The movement on it's nuts. It's crazy. All right, let's look ahead for the Yankees here. Obviously, as I already mentioned, day off today, travel day back. Now it's the White Sox. What I call it, they're a puzzling team. But 3 games beginning tomorrow, 7:05 on Yes. Lucas Giolito against Clark Schmidt. Big spot for Clark Schmidt. I think it's kind of underrated because he go into Wednesday's game with a TBA slot for the Yankees still technically. And Schmidt's coming off a run of a couple really good starts. And again, to kind of talk about a little bit what I already said about that Wednesday start, I mean, this is a White Sox team that if you want to keep that momentum going, this is the type of lineup that kind of keep that momentum going if you're Clark Schmidt.
Yeah, a team that strikes out a lot, a team that's struggled to score runs. I guess in terms of winning, they've won a little more than they first started off in the first month. Remember, they were like 7-20 or something. Yeah. So they've won a little more, but this is a team that you need to take care of business against at home and not do what the Mets do and struggle against these teams you should beat.
Yeah. All right, and then Wednesday, the only pitcher known at this point is for the White Sox. Again, a 7:05 first pitch on Yes. Lance Lynn's going for them. Been struggling lately,
Walk
so
machine.
Kind of see, 6.55 ERA for him. Then Thursday, 7:05 pitch. Also on Yes, Mike Clevenger against Luis Severino. So Wednesday's the big question mark again. To beat the dead horse, I always say, I struggle to predict outright when there's a TBA on it. I do think, though, the Yankees kind of continue that streak that they've now had for the past month all the way through May, and they did it to the start of Junior. I think they at least take the series. I think they get 2 of 3 against the White Sox.
Yeah, I think their loss will come tomorrow.
So you're going right with the...
So 2 of 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think just...
Unless they can somehow do some damage against that White Sox bullpen, because I just feel like they're probably going to be losing when Schmidt leaves the game.
Wow. You're back on the Clark Schmidt hater train, I see.
He's had too many good starts in a row to be...
It's fair.
To be on again.
All right, that's fair.
Just baseball logic.
All right, let's talk about the Mets here. I'd say in the baseball sense of it, right, just a weekend from hell. Swept by the Blue Jays. Not much went right. Let's start with, I guess, maybe what I call the only true positive, and that is Pete Alonso made Met history anyway. Officially broke a tie with Lucas Duda for most home runs at Citi Field history, which is kind of surprising that Lucas Duda had that dating back to 2009.
Yeah,
but
they tweeted that out, I was like, what?
That is baseball. And Lucas Duda, I don't know where you are now, but I want to apologize for me in high school just heckling you to death when you were in Buffalo when the Mets were their affiliate uh, in like 2010. So, um, yeah, and look, Pete's a guy who has been one of the again, well, probably one of the more consistent hitters all year. So it's a big, you know, look, like I said, it was a weekend from hell, but you got to try and find a bright spot somewhere. And if that's going to be your bright spot, I don't have a problem with it, I guess, in that sense. But just if it's a tough spot when that's your only positive from the weekend.
Yeah, 6 runs over 27 innings,
Hmm.
2 runs in the first game combined. I mean, you just can't win games. I mean, the pitching can almost be perfect, but you're scoring 1 run. It's probably not going to win you the game, and it's just more times than not, the offense has struggled, and the pitching does all they can to keep them in the game, and eventually it's just not enough. So yeah, that 5-game winning streak was great, but I mean, let's be real, it's pretty much a race. They took steps backwards. Um, I mean, now they go and face Atlanta. I know we're going to talk about it later, Paul, but I'm just saying in general, overall, like now they're going into Atlanta, a team that has been beat recently, but a team that's played well against the Mets as of late.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
so, I mean, it's not going to get any easier. I mean, at some point, they have to do what they did against the Rays and score runs and beat good teams because they're not beating the teams they should be.
Right.
And the Toronto Blue Jays aren't terrible, but they came in not playing too well. And you're home. No excuse not to win that series, especially with what starters you had lined up in that series. But the offense let them down.
Yeah. And that's the thing too about the starters. Kodai Senga's kind of gone Jekyll and Hyde here the past couple starts, and that's a topic I do want to just take a minute on because, as I said before, he's not a professional baseball rookie, right? I mean, this is a guy who's had years playing professional ball in Japan, right, in the MPBs, and I just want because I saw again, it's the people that do the overreacting that kind of get the headlines on this and whatever, right? When people come to a new league, they're always going to look good right off the bat. Or when it's somebody you don't have tape on, they're always going to look really good off the bat, right? That's just the way kind of it works, right? In a way. Senga's still trying to figure out how to like disguise. Like what the Blue Jays did to him, and he outright said it, right, was they weren't just gonna swing at off speed stuff. They were looking fastball, that's what they were gonna take. And like why in that sense, you can understand why it's a little bit of say Jekyll and Hyde a little bit for Senga the past couple weeks and starts. And it kind of sucks they kind of, to me anyway, taking the brunt in a sense. And I'm not talking from maybe the fan side of things, but like the personal side of his own like performances. I don't think it's necessarily fair of him to be like all these losses are just on me when, like you said, Kyle, the offense isn't even showing up more or less anyway in the first place. Like what difference? Like what difference does it make? He could have gave up 1 run, and like what difference does it make at that point if you don't have the run support to do that to propel you to get a victory, right? So I think it's just a tough spot for him, and an unjust one to kind of keep shouldering blame on himself when you're still trying to figure yourself out in this league, and it's not like you would have gotten the support anyway.
Yeah, and Kodai Senga did start on 4 days of rest, and as I mentioned a little bit ago, the walks are killing him. I just looked at 36 walks in 57 innings. If you do the walks per 9, it's 5.62. He puts a lot of traffic on the bases, and when he does have that rough game, it's because he's not getting out of those jams that he puts himself in. That's really all it is. If he lays off the walks a little bit, and he struggles and gives up a few base hits here and there, he's not going to have so much damage done against him. I mean, we know that as baseball fans. Walks kill pitchers,
Right.
and that's what they seem to be doing to him as of late. So, but he has pitched well. I mean, we saw that one start. What was it against the Rays last week? I mean, he's had his great starts, but yeah, those losses are, especially on that day, was not from Senga. I mean, the offense has to show up more. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, what was it, Saturday? I think I wrote they were 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position.
Right. So the next really topic I want to discuss with the Mets here, because I don't want. It's one of those things where it's like you only can really continuously talk about the same thing over and over again here. But within the last hour, we did have some late breaking news here, Kyle, that you alerted me to. That was after the fact. We kind of were set to go. So Mets did make a roster move a little bit ago.
Yeah, Omar Narvaez back from his rehab assignment, reinstated to the active roster, and then to make room, Tomas Nido was DFA'd, and according to the New York Post, they are trying to trade Nido, and it could be completed by the end of the day. No word on what team, but they do have till Saturday, but it sounds like they're going to get it done quickly.
Wow, that was quick. I know you didn't mention that other portion about there being a deal potentially done by the end of the day today on Monday. Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? I mean, his slash line in 61 plate appearances this year was rough, 125, 153, and 125. And it is kind of, it's weird how, like, certain fans operate, right? I mean, the top comment I see is about this, looking at it right now is, it had to happen. He's a really nice guy and a solid defensive backup catcher. I will always pull for him. And then, the reply to that comment is the stats, right? And it's like, you were bashing him who knows how long ago, and now you're just like, oh, damn. Like, well, yeah, good backup catchers will always be for defense, not for offense. And this ties into, I think, a grander question at this point, because, again, we go through the weekend, and we did not have the combination of Beatty, Vientos, and Alvarez all in the lineup together. I think, now we have a very big possibility of seeing that more often here with Nido getting DFA'd, and I know Omar's back, but Alvarez is seeing, I think, a little bit more time at DH here, I've noticed the past week or so. So we keep banging the drum and let the kids play, and, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I understand that, but even to the point where, and it's tough because I don't want to get too far down the line, but, like Ronnie Mauricio got hurt yesterday for Syracuse, and I don't know how long he's going to be out for or anything like that, or if he'll even be out, period. But he's just been raking still again, to bring that up. And I guess he's getting some run in the outfield. I know when I saw him Friday in Rochester, he was still playing shortstop, so I don't know. I haven't seen him in left field yet, but they're test running him out in the outfield even more. But I think we're at a point where Buck is going to just have to be forced to play these guys, like, more or less every day in the lineup together. I don't understand how, and I don't want to take shots at, like, Escobar here, but, like, he just doesn't have it this year. At the very least, Starling Marte's kind of came around a little bit. But, at this point, it's asinine to me if you don't have Vientos and Beatty and Alvarez all in the lineup together. I don't get it.
Yeah, and the new guy that's really struggling, I think 0 for his last 19, and then I don't know what the rest is, but is Francisco Lindor. If you watched him during this last homestand, uncompetitive at bats, just looks lost right now. But with him being that veteran guy, and he had a great season last year, he's going to turn it around. But, I mean, man, it seems like when one guy, kind of turns it around, another guy falls down. And I also saw a stat last night that during that homestand, their RBI leader was Mark Canha with 6. I forgot who had 2. Somebody had 2, probably Pete Alonso, and everyone else had 1 RBI. They got nothing else from their offense during that entire homestand. So, I mean, the offense just is killing them right now.
Well, he also had, Alvarez batting 7th, where now at this point, 7's where you're hiding your worst hitter. And so I don't understand what the hell.
And Alvarez was hitting 9th. Was it yesterday or Saturday?
Yeah. But he's been there before, so I kind of understand. He's doing that to kind of flip. He's been having good at bats, so I understand maybe the 9th. It wouldn't be my choice, but I get it. the principle of it, but like I don't know why you have him batting seventh. He's certainly not the worst hitter, you know.
And then no Brett Beatty. I think that was yesterday.
Right.
So
And there was no Vientos. I
Saturday?
think Friday or
Friday?
Saturday. It was
Yeah.
Friday. It was Friday or Saturday because then Alvarez wasn't in whatever the opposite was.
I should try to find the stat of how many times all three of them been in the lineup together.
Can't be often.
'Cause it's probably very few, maybe a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're too nervous to put in three kids in the same lineup.
And look, and this is where it's interesting. Kind of, you mentioned like last week, for example, the Braves are not afraid to play these guys. They did at the same time, like like Vaughn Grissom's at AAA. Like I don't know what the hell's going on there and stuff like that. But look, the Mets, as they sit, they're currently 30-30, third in the NL East, 5.5 back. They're well within reach, and I push back a little bit against you on this, Kyle. I don't think the Braves are exactly that good at this point. I know that they did more or less the same thing last year, but really, to be fair, outside of presently two starters in Spencer Strider and Bryce Elder, who, not to go too far again down the line here for just a second, but who the Mets will see this series, they haven't pitched great. Like Charlie Morton's fallen off now again. They're hitting their clubhouse is. By the way, their clubhouse is going to be a bit of a question mark here. They pulled Marcelo Ozuna finally after not hustling, and apparently Marcelo's not fond of that. So I don't know what the hell's going on with them, but this is look. I think this series, I think you play all three games, and I think this is a series. I wouldn't say experiment because you got to have these games now at this point, in my opinion. But if you want to really try and see what you actually got for the rest of the year, I think you got to do it in this series in Atlanta for the next few days.
Yeah, just kind of looking at the overall standings and
By the way, because also the Marlins appear that they're not at least going to go away without at least probably coughing at you, you know?
Yeah. It is incredible that they're only 5.5 back at 30-30, and it's the division. I guess is still right there for them if they get hot, and the Braves continue to go on a little skid here, but I still think this upcoming series is just gonna prove the difference between these two teams. I think the Braves, honestly, no joke, they sweep this series.
Wow.
And if somehow they don't, the only way I see them losing is because of the Braves bullpen. I think the matchups, other than Charlie Morton at times has been rough. But and I know they got Max Scherzer and Verlander going, but the offense hasn't done anything. I mean, they can have their best starters going, but when the offense doesn't score runs, they're not going to win. So, I don't know. I'm seriously thinking a sweep, though.
So you jumped way ahead on that one, but that's okay. Let's circle back to it, though, Kyle. A couple injury news and notes here for the Mets. Predominantly all positive, to be completely honest. So Jose Katana, he'll be throwing live batting practice in St. Lucie today. The plan would be, because he's already had one of those under his belt, would be his rehab assignment beginning sometime more or less within the next week. More than likely, they'll give him the full-fledged rest. So we're probably looking at the weekend at the earliest would be my guess for that. In addition, St. Lucie is also going to get Steven Ridings. He's joining them on a rehab assignment beginning tomorrow. Obviously with relievers, a little bit different kind of style, so not too sure if his first game will actually be tomorrow, but that's when he'll be joining the team. Good news on the Edwin Diaz front. So he's progressing along in his rehab to the point that he is riding stationary bikes. He hasn't had a true public appearance since the beginning of May, but reportedly he also should begin jogging soon, which is a very good sign, I'd say, for him possibly getting back in September and throwing, which would be an absolutely incredible timeline. And finally, right-handed reliever Sam Coonrod has been cleared to formally begin a throwing program, and the early indication would be his rehab assignments would begin by the start of July. So for the Mets, certainly some arms coming along here sooner and a little bit later on, more than likely.
Yeah, they have to, in my mind, strengthen that bullpen. We saw an exact example of it yesterday. They love Dominic Leone. I mean, he hasn't been good for them. Let's be real. And they love him. Or Buck Showalter loves him. He brings him in so many times during high leverage spots. And then they got to the point where they've used Adam Ottavino so much, and they've used David Robertson so much that they've had to go to these guys that probably haven't had much experience in high leverage spots. It's because their bullpen isn't deep enough, in my mind. And yesterday they tried to stretch Robertson, to get extra outs, and that backfired. He let Robertson face Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with a runner at second, and I think there was one or two outs, and he already had thrown like 28 pitches. And, Vladdy hit the go-ahead double, and that was the difference in the game. So, yeah, right now, their offense, again, is still the main concern here, but I would like to see them strengthen the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely going to be, really be fair. I think it's something that both me and you said that they probably should have done in the first place a little bit more than they even did.
Yep.
Because, look, they really actually kind of did go out and do it, but it's pretty apparent where at least one of their major shortfalls has actually been the bullpen. So, definitely agree there. All right, so Kyle, you already kind of teased it up and kind of, I guess, blew your own prediction for this portion of it, but as the Mets head to Atlanta for 3 games. Beginning tomorrow, TBS 7:20, classic. See, now you don't know, Kyle. I'm about to really just hit a certain age of person here. You do not remember at all having the ability to watch the Braves just every day in New York State, do you?
I do not.
Exactly. Shout out TBS back in the day. I kind of missed that, to be honest. It was always nice having another team available to you to watch on the everyday, in addition to Yes and SNY. TBS had that. But alas, they only have it one night a week now on Tuesdays, but the Braves do return for this Tuesday with the Mets. Carrasco against Bryce Elder. Wednesday, 7:20. Scherzer against Charlie Morton. That's on SNY. And then SNY also on Thursday at 7:20 as it's Verlander versus Spencer Strider. It kind of sucks. I hate doing this, but I don't necessarily disagree with you, Kyle. I do disagree. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think the Mets do get one here, but
good luck with Spencer Strider is all I'm saying.
I just don't see them winning the series, right? I think technically they're going against the MLB leader in ERA and Bryce Elder. I think he's the MLB ERA leader. If not, he's number 2. I think they win Wednesday, only because I just don't understand Charlie Morton.
How is his ERA not worse though?
That's what I'm getting at. Like I don't get him. But yeah, I mean, sandwiched in between that, you have a guy in Bryce Elder who, I remember from when he was pitching in college, and I was like, there's no way this guy's going to – I will put it to you like this. I knew he was going to be good in the big leagues. I didn't anticipate him leading the league in ERA at any point. So there's that. And obviously Spencer Strider's just been he's already been the best pitcher in baseball the past calendar year. So it's tough. I know in an ideal world they'll somehow get the 2 of 3 to at least take the series, but I don't see it. I think it's 1 of 3 and they lose it.
Yeah. I don't know. I know you're saying that Charlie Morton might be the game they win, but I mean this is a Mets team that scored 1 run off Patrick Corbin.
I know.
Patrick Corbin, we thought, oh my God, they're gonna have a great day.
Maybe a slug like Charlie Morton's just what they need.
It still blows my mind as we sit here and almost halfway through June. Well, okay,
we ain't almost halfway through.
We're 5 days.
I ain't allowing you off the hook on that one.
Sorry, give us 10 more days and we'll be halfway through June. Okay, but it's June 5th. Like, it's hard to believe this Mets lineup is not hitting like they should be or more consistent.
No, I agree with you there, yeah.
And what stat was it? Oh, man, I'm drawing a blank right now. If I think about it, I'll mention it. I saw some other stat yesterday about the Mets offense, and I was like, wow. Yeah, I can't remember right now. But, yeah, it's shocking to me. And well, who knows? Maybe they'll somehow surprise everybody and do well.
Yeah, it's kind of wild before we kind of move on here to Rochester and Syracuse. Brandon Nimmo's their leading batter right now with a 292 average. Other than that, it's Pete Alonso for runs. He's leading there with 40. 21 home runs and 47 RBI. That's pretty on pace for what he actually usually does. That's the wild part about it, is like with him anyway, he's kind of doing what he always does. And then what's interesting here is stolen bases. Starling Marte has 17 bags. So I mean, when he's getting on base, he's making stuff happen. It's just a matter of the run production, and I don't know. It's a mystery to me how it's just not happening at this point. And I think I have the solution, which is play all three kids in the lineup at the same time.
And since they aren't hitting a lot of home runs, maybe I know a lot of people don't like this, but you gotta manufacture runs. Maybe start bunting a little more.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, anything you can to scratch across runs. I mean, it's not supposed to look great when you do it. You just got to get them across. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's like 0 for 11 runners in scoring position. How at that point just bunt a guy over?
Right. I mean, that's how the Yankees won yesterday. To be honest, So hey, what do we know? We're just guys sitting in chairs with microphones in our face.
Yep.
All right, before we get out here, a couple minutes on Rochester and Syracuse. Rochester had won 6 straight until Syracuse won the final 2 games of the series over the weekend, but alas, the Red Wings still take it 4-2 overall. Was able to get up Friday night for the game up there.
More extra innings.
Free baseball.
For the second time in 8 days, but
Yeah.
different teams.
Yeah, it was great. And it's interesting because Jose Buto started that game for Syracuse, gave up 3 pretty quick, but settled in. And Syracuse, now that I've seen them, a couple times with eyes, boots on the ground, eyes on location type thing, they aren't bad. It's one of those things where it's kind of like the parent club. I guess I'm just confused as to like what's actually kind of going on, in a sense. Mentioned Ronnie Mauricio a little bit here. He got dinged up. Obviously, I mentioned yesterday. Collided with Jake Knoll, who was just activated from the injured list. So hopefully Ronnie's okay. I know Friday he had 2 exit velos of over 100 miles per hour. So, and I noticed that, when I saw him a couple weeks ago up in Syracuse, he doesn't leave many balls lied to, as I say. He squares them up and he lets them go. So it'll be interesting there. For Rochester, as soon as they get Jake Knoll back, they had to place Darren Baker on the injured list, who's arguably been the best Red Wing all year, to be completely honest. So that's a bit of a tough blow. For Syracuse, really a roster move of note was over the weekend was that Jimmy Yacobonis was outrighted to them after he was DFA'd by the Mets. So Mets still find themselves at the bottom of the International League. Rochester, despite dropping the 2 straight over the weekend, moved up and made up a half game to first place. So they're tied for 12th now in the International League and 13 back. Obviously, for both, the first half run of things is pretty much up. Obviously ending in, 20 days actually, so 20 games rather, so it will be interesting as they move through the month of June, but again, a tale of 2 different teams here, a bit more confident with Rochester. They're on the road against the White Sox this week. Syracuse welcomes in Lehigh Valley, but, after, again, seeing Syracuse on the ground again, they're not bad. It's just I don't think they get the full team element going at the same time that we've just been talking about.
Yeah, nothing seems like it ever clicks at the same time with them. And I think, what was it, yesterday or Saturday is when they lost, or when they came back and won in 10 innings.
Yeah.
So, they do fight. They do their best to try to win games, and it's just stuff doesn't click. I mean, they don't get offense sometimes, and then when they do, the pitching, gives up a ton and they lose like a slugfest. I mean, we've seen so many high-scoring games of them. But, yeah, Rochester's been playing really well. I mean, I remember when, they were like 10 games under 500. Now you look, they're 3. Mm-hmm. So here's my prediction. I'm going to make a little prediction here just for whatever. Nobody probably cares, but
Wow.
By the end of the month,
I care.
Rochester will have a winning record by the end of the month.
I know by the end of the month they flip. The second half begins. The 25th, de facto, they do
Okay, so
records,
before it flips,
Okay.
winning record.
Okay. I like that. I could see it. I could definitely see it. I mentioned it last week. I mean, they are winning more games than they're expected to at this point. So what does that tell you? So yeah, I'm with you though, Kyle. I like that. I like that mentality. So All right, so that'll wrap up Concrete Jungle for today. We'll be back Thursday for our late week edition. Other than that, like I said, it's not a ton of baseball tonight, people, on Monday. It sucks. I can't even bet anything for those of us inclined really too much. So I don't know what I'm going to do tonight. Maybe, well, I do have to go grocery shopping because adulthood, so there's that, I guess. I don't know. It's going to be rough for you, Colin. What are you going to do? Are you just going to play the show maybe? Or
So we have the Stanley Cup final on at 8.
Right.
That'll get over probably 10:30. I think a baseball game might be on till maybe
There's one late
11.
night game tonight, yeah.
But after that, yeah, it's going to be tough to find something to do. I hate that. I like my West Coast baseball.
Looks like you're going to be grinding the show, eh?
Yeah. I haven't played too much over the weekend, but I will say this before we head out, go Heat. What was it? Yeah, Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And R.I.P. the Amherst.
That's right, yeah.
Their season's over. It's a tough way to go out, getting shut out in your own building.
Hey, by the way, and yeah, that's a good point before we head out of here. It was packed at the Red Wings game Friday night, and I know it was a sellout at the Amherst game Friday night. Kudos to Rochester really showing up for both teams.
Yeah, how do they get all those
just,
people
just
for both
crazy.
teams?
Yeah, and all within a pretty close radius of each other at that point.
Yeah, Rochester was, it's already a big city. Not a huge city, but it's a big city. But man, there was a lot going on down in Rochester that night.
Yeah. So kudos to you, Rochester community, for Friday, for making Friday night, a memorable one, I'd say, in the sports landscape of minor leagues. That was pretty interesting.
And I know this is not a hockey pod, but I just want to bring this up because it's crazy. Did you know in that series against Hershey, only one team won one of their home games? Hershey won 3 of their
Really?
4 games on the road.
Huh.
Rochester won both of theirs on the road.
Wow.
Yep.
I
So home
think
ice
that's a pretty
advantage is not a thing.
I think that's a pretty good indication for Hershey then. Whenever they play, who do they play? They gotta play somebody from the West Coast.
Yeah, it's tied right now, Coachella,
Oh wow.
and I forgot the other one, but series is tied.
Couldn't be my beloved San Diego Gulls. I know that.
Yeah, hockey is almost over.
Yeah. So, like Kyle said, at least enjoy whatever sports you happen to have on tonight, Stanley Cup Final, or the lone
Go
road
Panthers.
late game. Oh, man. I don't know.
Yeah, go Panthers.
I can't. Either way.
South Florida, let's go.
Either way, we'll talk with everybody again on Thursday. If you can't watch it live on YouTube, catch them anytime on YouTube, fingerless1.com, as well as Spotify and Spotify for podcasters. And until Thursday, have a great week, everybody.